Jai Om Vishnu Pada Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardhan Maharaj Ki Jai.
Vandeyam Shri Guru Shri Yatha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatam Bitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shivashikam Vitamscha Om Jnana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurva Bhishtam Supurakam Gurganara Sesha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Vedanipanam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govinda Bidam Ujwalam Bharatanum Bhaktyan Vidam Sundaram Vande Vishwagurun Shah Divyad Bhagavat Premno Ebijapradam Devam Divyatanum Suchandavaranam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadekavaranam Vairagya Vidyambunim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Vandetam Shubharam Mareka Sharanam Nyashishwara Sridharam Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaurata Vishe Namah. Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Prabhupada, and this is Adi-lila, chapter 5, the glories of Lord Nityananda Balaram, and this is verse 201. Jaya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Kripa Moy Jaha Hoite Painu Rupa Sanatana Shroy. All glory to the merciful Lord Nityananda, by whose mercy I have attained shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan. Jaha Hoite Painu Raghunatha Mahashai. Jaha Hoite Painu Sri Swarupa Ashray. By his mercy I have attained the shelter of the great personality, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami. By his mercy I have attained the shelter of the great personality, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, and by his mercy I have found the refuge of Sri Swarup Damodar. Anyone desiring to become expert in the service of Shri Radha and Krishna should always aspire to be under the guidance of Swarup Damodar Goswami, Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. To come under the protection of the Goswamis, one must get the mercy and grace of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. The author has tried to explain this fact in these two verses. So those two verses, let's see. These two verses are all glory to Lord Nityananda Balaram, by whose mercy I have attained the shelter. I have attained shelter in the transcendental abode of Vrindavan. All glory to the merciful Lord Nityananda, by whose mercy I have attained shelter at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Sanatan. By his mercy I have attained the shelter of the great personality, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, and by his mercy I have found the refuge of Sri Swarup Damodar. Sanatana Kripaya Painu Bhaktira Siddhanta Sri Rupa Kripaya Painu Bhakta Rasa Pranta. By the mercy of Sanatana Goswami I have learned the final conclusion of devotional service, and by the grace of Sri Rupa Goswami I have tasted the highest nectar of devotional service. Sri Sanatana Goswami Prabhu, the teacher of the science of devotional service, wrote several books of which the Brihad Bhagavatamrita is very famous. Anyone who wants to know about the subject matter of devotees, devotional service, and Krishna must read this book. Sanatana Goswami also wrote a special commentary on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Dashama Tippani, which is so excellent that by reading it, one can understand very deeply the pastimes of Krishna in his exchanges of loving activities. Another famous book by Sanatana Goswami is the Hari Bhakti Vilas, which states the rules and regulations for all divisions of Vaishnavas, namely Vaishnava householders, Vaishnava brahmacharis, Vaishnava vanaprasthas, and Vaishnava sannyasis. This book was especially written, however, for Vaishnava householders. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami has described Sanatana Goswami in his prayer Vilapa Kushamanjali, verse 6, where he has expressed his obligation to Sanatana Goswami in the following words: Vairagya Yug Bhakti Rasam Prayatnar Apayayam Mam Anabipsum Andam Kripambudirya Paradukaduki Sanatanastam Prabhum Ashrayami. Vairagya Yug Bhakti Rasam Prayatnar Apayayan Mam Anubipsum Andam Kripambudirya Paradukaduki Sanatanastam Prabhum Ashrayami. I was unwilling to drink the nectar of devotional service possessed of renunciation, but Sanatana Goswami, out of his causeless mercy, made me drink it, even though I was otherwise unable to do so. Therefore, he is an ocean of mercy. He is very compassionate to fallen souls like me, and thus it is my duty to offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also, in the last section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, specifically mentions the names of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Jiva Goswami, and offers his respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of these three spiritual masters, as well as Raghunath Das. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami also accepted Sanatana Goswami as the teacher of the science of devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami is described as the Bhakti Rasacharya, or one who knows the essence of devotional service. His famous book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, is the science of devotional service, and by reading this book one can understand the meaning of devotional service. Another of his famous books is the Ujjvala Nilamani. In this book, he elaborately explains the loving affairs and transcendental activities of Lord Krishna and Radharani. Jaya Jaya Nityananda Charanaravinda Jahoite Painu Sri Radha Govinda. All glory to the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, by whose mercy I have attained Sri Radha Govinda. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, who is famous for his poetic composition known as Prarthana, has lamented in one of his prayers, "When will Lord Nityananda be merciful upon me so that I will forget all material desires?" Srila Narottam Das Thakur confirms that unless one is freed from material desires to satisfy the needs of the body and senses, one cannot understand the transcendental abode of Lord Krishna, Vrindavan. He also confirms that one cannot understand the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna without going through the direction of the six Goswamis. In another verse, Narottam Das Thakur has stated that without the causeless mercy of Sri Nityananda Prabhu, one cannot enter into the affairs of Radha and Krishna. Jagai madai hoite mui se papishta, purushera kita hoite mui se lagishta. I am more sinful than Jagai and Madai, and even lower than the worms in the stool. Moranam shune jay tara punya koi, Muranam loya je tara papa hoy. Anyone who hears my name loses the results of his pious activities. Anyone who utters my name becomes sinful. That's extreme humility of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Emana nirgrina more keva kripa kore ek Nityananda binu jagat bitare. Who in this world but Nityananda could show his mercy to such an abominable person as me? Premimata Nityananda kripa avatar Uttama Adama Kichu Nakore Bichar. Because he is intoxicated by ecstatic love and is an incarnation of mercy, he does not distinguish between the good and the bad. Che age padaye tare koraye nishtar, ateva nishtarila mohema durachar. He delivers all those who fall down before him. Therefore he has delivered such a sinful and fallen person as me. Mohapapiste anilena Sri Vrindavan Mohena Adamai Dila Sri Rupacharan. Although I am sinful and I am the most fallen, he has conferred upon me the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami. Sri Madana Gopal Sri Govinda Darshan Kohivara Jogya Nahe E Sab Katan. I'm not fit to speak all these confidential words about my visiting Lord Madan Gopal and Lord Govinda. Vrindavana Purandara Sri Madana Gopal Rasa Vilasa Sakat Rajendra Kumar. Sri Madan Gopal, Sri Govinda Darshan, Kahibara Jogya Nahi E Sabkatan. I am not fit to speak all these confidential words about my visiting Lord Madan Gopal and Lord Govinda. Vrindavana Purandara Sri Madana Gopal, Rasa Vilasa Sakat Brajendra Kumar. Lord Madan Gopal, the chief deity of Vrindavan, is the enjoyer of the Rasa dance and is directly the son of the king of Braja. Shri Radha Lalita Sange Rasa Bilas Manmata Manmata Rupe Jahara Prakash. He enjoys the Rasa dance with Srimati Radharani, Sri Lalita, and others. He manifests himself as the Cupid of Cupids. Tasam Avira Bhujjori Smayamana Mukambuja Pitambara Dara Shragvi Sakshan Manmataha. Wearing yellow garments and decorated with a flower garland, Lord Krishna, appearing among the gopis with his smiling lotus face, looked directly like the charmer of the heart of Cupid. Svamadhurye lokaraman kore akarshan duipashe Radha Lalita Korana Seban. With Radha and Lalita serving him on his two sides, he attracts the hearts of all by his own sweetness. Nityananda Doya More Tare Dekaila Sri Radha Madana Mohane Prabhu Koridila. The mercy of Lord Nityananda showed me Sri Madan Mohan and gave me Sri Madan Mohan as my Lord and Master. Mo Adame Dila Sri Govinda Darshan Kahibara Kata Nahe Akatya Katan. He granted to one as low as me the sight of Lord Govinda. Words cannot describe this, nor is it fit to be disclosed. Vrindavane Jogapite Kalpa Tarubane Ratna Mandapatahe Ratna Simasane Sri Govinda Basi Jachan Brajendra Nandan Madhurya Prakashi Korana Jagata Mohan. On an altar made of gems is the principal temple of Vrindavan, amidst a forest of desire trees. Lord Govinda, On an altar made of gems in the principal temple of Vrindavan, amidst a forest of desire trees, Lord Govinda, the son of the king of Braja, sits upon a throne of gems and manifests his full glory and sweetness, thus enchanting the entire world. Bhama Parshve Shri Radhika Sakigan Sange Rasadika Lila Prabhu Kore Katarange. By his left side is Srimati Radharani and her personal friends. With them, Lord Govinda enjoys a Rasa Lila and many other pastimes. Jaradhyana Nijaloke Kore Padmasan Ashtadashakara Mantre Kore Upasan. Lord Brahma, sitting on his lotus seat in his own abode, always meditates on him and worships him with a mantra consisting of 18 syllables. In his own planet, Lord Brahma, with the inhabitants of that planet, worships the form of Lord Govinda, Krishna, by the mantra of 18 syllables, Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha. Those who are initiated by a bona fide spiritual master and who chant the Gayatri mantra 3 times a day know this Ashtadashakara 18-syllable mantra. The inhabitants of Brahmaloka and the planets below Brahmaloka worship Lord Govinda by meditating with this mantra. There is no difference between meditating and chanting, but in the present age, meditation is not possible on this planet. Therefore, loud chanting of a mantra like the Maha Mantra Hare Krishna with soft chanting of the Ashtadashakara, the mantra of 18 syllables, is recommended. Lord Brahma lives in the highest planetary system, known as Brahmaloka or Satyaloka. In every planet, there is a predominating deity. As the predominating deity in Satyaloka is Lord Brahma, so in the heavenly planets, Indra is the predominating deity, and on the sun god, Vivasvan, is the predominating deity. The inhabitants and predominating deities of every planet are all recommended to worship Govinda either by meditation or by chanting. So there's the mantra. Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha. Choda Bhuvane Jara Sabe Kore Jan Vaikunthadi Pure Jara Lila Gunagan. Everyone in the 14 worlds meditates upon him, and all the denizens of Vaikuntha sing of his qualities and pastimes. Jara Madhurite Kore Lakshmi-akarshan Rupa Gosai Kore Jachin Shri Rupa Barshan. The goddess of fortune is attracted by his sweetness, which Srila Rupa Goswami has described in this way. Srila Rupa Goswami in his Lagu Bhagavatamrita is quoted from the Padma Purana, where it is stated that Lakshmi Devi, the goddess of fortune, after seeing the attractive features of Lord Krishna, was attracted to him, and to get the favor of Lord Krishna, she engaged herself in meditation. When asked by Krishna why she engaged in meditation with austerity, Lakshmi Devi answered, "I want to be one of your associates, like the gopis in Vrindavan." Hearing this, Lord Sri Krishna replied that it was quite impossible. Lakshmi Devi then said that she wanted to remain just like a golden line on the chest of the Lord. The Lord granted the request, and since then Lakshmi has always been situated on the chest of Lord Krishna as a golden line. The austerity and meditation of Lakshmi Devi are also mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, where the Nagapatnis, the wives of the serpent Kaliya, in the course of their prayers to Krishna, said that the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, also wanted the association of a gopi and desired the dust of his lotus feet. Pardon me. The austerity and meditation of Lakshmi Devi are also mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, where the Nagapatnis, the wives of the serpent Kaliya, in the course of their prayers to Krishna, said that the goddess of fortune Lakshmi also wanted his association as a gopi and desired the dust of his lotus feet. But that wasn't possible because Lakshmi Devi has the mood of Vaikuntha naturally, since she's the goddess of Vaikuntha. But that mood is called Aishvarya Gyan, the sense of opulence, majesty. And in Goloka Vrindavan, the abode of Krishna, there's not that sense of majesty. There's a sense of simplicity and spontaneous attraction to Krishna. There's no sense of awe and reverence, and that's the mood of Vaikuntha. So Lakshmi Devi desired to enter into the pastimes of Krishna, and she engaged herself in austerities for a long time. But finally she was unsuccessful. So that's expressed by the Nagapatnis, because they're a little surprised because their husband, Kaliya, who was a snake, he got the mercy of Krishna because Krishna danced on Kaliya's hoods with his lotus feet. So he got the dust of Krishna even though he was a snake. But Lakshmi couldn't get that mercy in that way, because she had this sense of being the queen of Vaikuntha. And that mood was not compatible with Vrindavan, which is more simple and spontaneous. Smeram Bangi Traya Parichitam Sachi Vishtirna Drishtim Vamshi Nyasta Dara Kishalayam Ujwalam Chandrakena Govindakyam Haritanu Mita Keshi Tirto Pakante Ma Prekshistas Tava Yadi Sake Bandhu Sange Stirangaha. My dear friend, if you are indeed attached to your worldly friends, do not look at the smiling face of Lord Govinda as he stands on the bank of the Jamuna of Keshigat, casting sidelong glances. He places his flute to his lips, which seem like newly blossomed twigs. His transcendental body, bending in three places, appears very bright in the moonlight. That's a very nice verse from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. Smeram Bangi Traya Parichitam Sachi Vishtirna Drishtim Vamshi Nyastadara Kishalayam Ujwalam Chandrakena Govindakyam Haritanum Ita Keshi Tirto Bakante Mo Prekshistas Tava Yadi Saki Bandhu Sangesti Rangaha. My dear friend, my dear friend, if you are indeed attached to your worldly friends, do not look at the smiling face of Lord Govinda as he stands on the banks of the Jamuna at Keshigat, casting sidelong glances. He places his flute to his lips, and which seem like newly blossomed twigs. His transcendental body, bending in three places, appear very bright in the moonlight. If you're attached to living a worldly or mundane life, then don't look at Govinda, because then you will lose that attraction. There's a verse quoted from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu in connection with practical devotional service. Generally, people in their conditioned life engage in the pleasure of society, friendship, and love. This so-called love is lust, not love. But people are satisfied with such a false understanding of love. Vidyapati, a great and learned poet of Adi-lila, has said that the pleasure derived from friendship, society, and family life in the material world is like a drop of water, but our hearts desire pleasure like an ocean. Thus, the heart is compared to a desert of material existence that requires the water of an ocean of pleasure to satisfy its dryness. If there is a drop of water in the desert, one may indeed say that it is water, but such a minute quantity of water has no value. Similarly, in this material world, no one is satisfied in the dealings of society, friendship, and love. Therefore, if one wants to derive real pleasure within his heart, he must seek the lotus feet of Govinda. In this verse, Rupa Goswami indicates that if one wants to be satisfied in the pleasure of society, friendship, and love, he need not seek shelter at the lotus feet of Govinda. For if one takes shelter under his lotus feet, he will forget that minute quantity of so-called pleasure. One who is not satisfied with that so-called pleasure may seek the lotus feet of Govinda, who stands on the shore of the Yamuna at Keshi Tirtha, or Keshi Ghat, in Vrindavan, and attracts all the gopis to his transcendental loving service. So, this world is like a desert. The material world is like a desert. So you're looking for water. So if I come, oh, here, you want some water? Here, one drop on your tongue. You'll say, I'm dying of thirst. How is one drop going to do me any good? But the quantity of pleasure in this world is very minute, like a drop of water. But one's heart desires real quantities of pleasure, and that will only come when one comes to the lotus feet of Govinda. Otherwise, the pleasures of this material world are not very substantial. It's, what is it? The verse in that Bhajahure Mana. Edana yovana putra parijana iteki achi parati tire. Kamala dala jala jivana talamala bhajon nari parani tire. That phrase, Kamala dala jala. It's like a drop of water that's resting on the leaf of a lotus. It'll stay there for a few seconds and then slide off again. So whatever water, whatever pleasure is coming from Edana Yovana Putra Parijana, Edana Yovana, from youth, and Edana Yovana from youth and riches, Edana Yovana Putra from family, Putra Parijana, and love, all these things. Where will one get? One won't get any pleasure. Now, even more so, people, they get married, they get divorced, they get married again, they get divorced, they get married again. They become like 2-time losers, 3-time losers. And then they have to pay, what is it? They have to pay maintenance, right? Is that what they call it? They have to pay. What is it called when someone gets divorced? Then they have to pay
Alimony?
Yeah, they have to pay alimony, but they have to pay maintenance, right, for the children. Support. They have to pay support for the children. And they working doubly hard. And Prabhupada, it was very funny. One time, he asked this old man, he said, I'm preaching in the West. Why don't you come with me? Come with me and preach in the West. And that old man says, I'll have to ask my wife. And then Prabhupada said, your whole life you're working for your wife, but if you say to her you want to go to the West, my dear wife, I want to go to the West and preach, And she'll say, "What have you ever done for me?" He said, "Your whole life you're working for her." But when you tell her that, she'll say, "What have you ever done for me?" So this. Sakat Brajendra Sutta Ite Nahiyan Seva Agye Kore Tare Pratimahena Gyan. Without a doubt, he is directly the son of the king of Braja. Only a fool considers him a statue. And he's talking about the deity of Madan Mohan. Without a doubt, he is directly the son of the king of Braja, Krishna. Only a fool considers him a statue. Se aparade tara nahika nishtar gora nara kete pare ki boliba ar. For that offense he cannot be liberated. Rather, he will fall into a terrible hellish condition. What more should I say? In his Bhakti Sandarbha, Jiva Goswami has stated that those who are actually very serious about devotional service do not differentiate between the form of the Lord made of clay, metal, stone, or wood and the original form of the Lord. In the material world, a person and his photograph, picture, or statue are different, but the statue of Lord Krishna and Krishna himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are not different because the Lord is absolute. What we call stone, wood, and metal are energies of the Supreme Lord, and energies are never separate from the energetic. As we have several times explained, no one can separate the sunshine energy from the energetic sun. Therefore, material energy may appear separate from the Lord, but transcendentally it is non-different from the Lord. And the Lord is non-different from Nam, Rupa, Guna, Lila, from his name, from his form, from his qualities, Guna, and Lila, from his pastimes or his activities. So the form of the Lord is non-different from his Lord. The Lord can appear anywhere and everywhere because his diverse energies are distributed everywhere like sunshine. We should therefore understand whatever we see to be the energy of the Supreme Lord and should not differentiate between the Lord and his archa form made from clay, metal, wood, or paint. That is, form of the Lord made from clay, metal, wood, or paint means, or a picture of the Lord. Even if one is not developed this consciousness, one should accept it theoretically from the instructions of the spiritual master and should worship the Archa Murti, or form of the Lord in the temple, as non-different from the Lord. The Padma Purana specifically mentions that anyone who thinks the form of the Lord in the temple to be made of wood, stone, or metal is certainly in a hellish condition. Impersonalists are against the worship of the Lord's form in the temple, and there is even a group of people who pass as Hindus but condemn such worship. Their so-called acceptance of the Vedas has no meaning, for all the acharyas, even the impersonalist Shankaracharya, have recommended the worship of the transcendental form of the Lord. Impersonalists like Shankaracharya recommend the worship of 5 forms known as Panchopashana, which include Lord Vishnu, Vaikuntha Vaishnavas, which include Lord Vishnu. Vaishnavas, however, worship the form of Lord Vishnu in his varied manifestations, such as Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan, Sita Ram, and Rukmini Krishna. Mayavadis admit that worship of the Lord's form is required in the beginning, but they think that in the end everything is impersonal. Therefore, since they are ultimately against worship of the Lord's form, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has described them as offenders. Srimad Bhagavatam has condemned those who think the body to be the self as Boma Idyadi. Boma means earth and Idyadi means worshipper. There are two kinds of Boma Idyadis, those who worship the land of their birth. There are two kinds of Boma Idyadi, those who worship the land of their birth, such as nationalists, who make many sacrifices for the motherland, and those who condemn the worship of the form of the Lord. One should not worship the planet Earth or land of his birth, nor should one condemn the form of the Lord, which is manifested in metal or wood for our facility. Material things are also the energy of the Supreme Lord.
Orders, may I have your permission, please? Shishi Guru
So we can join in any kind of celebration or worship, such as the worship of Earth Day, when people are worshiping the beauty, or worshiping this earth as their shelter and everything like that. So that is all right. But ultimately, that's included in our worship of Sri Sri Radha Krishna. We're worshiping the divine form of the Lord and his associates. Hena Jai Govinda Prabhu Painu Jahoite Jahara Charana Kripa Ke Pare Barnite. Therefore, who can describe the mercy of the lotus feet of him, Lord Nityananda, by whose mercy? Therefore, who can describe the mercy of the lotus feet of him, Lord Nityananda, by whom I have attained the shelter of this Lord Govinda? Vrindavane Vaishe Jata Vaishnava Mando Krishna Nama Parayanta Paramamango. All the groups of Vaishnavas who live in Vrindavan are absorbed in chanting the all-auspicious name of Krishna. Jara Pranadana Nityananda Sri Chaitanya Radha Krishna Bhakti Bine Nahi Janayanya. Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda are the life and soul of those Vaishnavas who do not know anything but devotional service to Sri Sri Radha Krishna. Say Vaishnavera Pararenu Tara Parachai Adamera Dila Prabhu Nityananda Daya. Say Vaishnava Pararenu Tara Parachaya Adamera Dila Prabhu Nityananda Daya. The dust and shade of the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas have been granted to this fallen soul by the mercy of Lord Nityananda. Ta sarvas labhya hoy prabhur bachana se sutra e tara koila vivaran taha sarva labhya hoy prabhura vachan se sutra e tara koila vivaran. Lord Nityananda said, in Vrindavan all things are possible. Here I have explained his brief statement in detail. E sab painu ami Vrindavane I se sab labhya e prabhura kripai. I have attained all this by coming to Vrindavan, and this was made possible by the mercy of Lord Nityananda. All the inhabitants of Vrindavan are Vaishnavas. They are all auspicious because somehow or other they always chant the holy name of Krishna. Even though some of them do not strictly follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, on the whole they are devotees of Krishna and chant his name directly or indirectly. purposely or without purpose. Even when they pass on the street, they are fortunate enough to exchange greetings by saying the name of Radha or Krishna. Thus, directly or indirectly, they are auspicious. The present city of Vrindavan has been established by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas since the six Goswamis went there and directed the construction of their different temples. Of all the temples in Vrindavan, 90% belong to the Gaudiya Vaishnava sect, the followers of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda, and the 7 temples are very famous. The inhabitants of Vrindavan do not know anything but the worship of Radha and Krishna. In recent years, some unscrupulous so-called priests, known as caste Goswamis, have introduced the worship of demigods privately. But no genuine and rigid Vaishnavas participate in this. Those who are serious about the Vaishnava method of devotional activities do not take part in such worship of demigods. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas never differentiate between Radha and Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. They say that since Lord Chaitanya is the combined form of Radha Krishna, he is not different from Radha and Krishna. But some misled people try to prove that they are greatly elevated by saying that they like to chant the holy name of Lord Gauranga instead of the names of Radha and Krishna. Thus they purposely differentiate between Lord Chaitanya and Radha Krishna. According to them, the system of Nadia Nagari, which they have recently invented in their fertile brains, is the worship of Gaura, Lord Chaitanya, but they do not like to worship Radha and Krishna. They put forward the argument that since Lord Chaitanya himself appeared as Radha and Krishna combined, there is no necessity of worshipping Radha and Krishna. Such differentiation by so-called devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is considered disruptive by pure devotees. Anyone who differentiates between Radha, Krishna, and Gauranga is to be considered a plaything in the hands of Maya. There are others who are against the worship of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, thinking him mundane. But any sect that differentiates between Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Radha Krishna, either by worshipping Radha Krishna as distinct from Lord Chaitanya, or by worshipping Lord Chaitanya but not Radha Krishna, is in the group of Prakriti Sahajas. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, predicts in verses 225 and 226 that in the future those who manufacture imaginary methods of worship will gradually give up the worship of Radha and Krishna, and although they will call themselves devotees of Lord Chaitanya, they will also give up the worship of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and fall down into material activities. For the real worship of Lord Chaitanya, the ultimate goal of life is to worship Sri Radha and Krishna. In verses 225 and 226. Are Sakat Brajendra Sutta Ite Nahiyan Jeva Agye Kore Tare Pratima Henagyan. Without a doubt, he is directly the son of the king of Braja. Only a fool considers him a statue. Se aparare tara nahika nishtar gora narakete pare kiboliba ar. For that offense he cannot be liberated. Rather, he will fall into a terrible hellish condition. What more should I say? Apanara Katolyaki Nirlajja Hoya Nityananda Gunil Lekaya Unmata Korea. I have described my own story without reservations. The attributes of Lord Nityananda making me like a madman forced me to write these things. Nityananda Prabhu Guna Mahima Apar Sahasrabharane Sesha Nahi Pai Jar. The glories of Lord Nityananda's transcendental attributes are unfathomable. Even Lord Sesha with his thousands of mouths cannot find their limit. Shri Rupa Raghunath Parijara As Chaitanya Charitamrita Kohe Krishna Das. Bringing the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I Krishna Das narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Let's end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi-lila, 5th chapter, describing the glories of Lord Nityananda Balaram. Now let's sing Hari Haraya. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jarabaya Nama Raya Nama Krishna Jarabaya Nama Jarabaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Jarabaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Giridhari Gopinatha Marana Mohan Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra Ganadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ganadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jai Rupa Sanatam Bhakta Raghunam Jai Rupa Sanatam Bhakta Raghunam Shri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Nasa Raghunam Shri Jiva Gopala Bhakta Nasa Raghunam Jai Gosai Kori Chananam Bandhan Jai Gosai Kori Chananam Bandhan Jai Te Vignana Shabhishta Puran Jai Te Vignana Shabhishta Puran Hey Jai Gosai Jai Vicharadas Jai Gosai Jai Vicharadas Dasamar Pada Renu Mora Panchagram Dasamar Pada Renu Mora Panchagram Kadir Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Kadir Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas Janame Janame More Abhilas Janame Janame More Abhilas Hey Jai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas Jai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Bhakti Majai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Bhakti Majai Aman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriya Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriya Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Narada Moda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo,
Jai Gora Hari Bol,
Hari Bo, Hari Bo,
Gora Hari Bol,
Nitai Gora Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo.
Jai Gora Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Jai Gora Hari Bol.
Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Jo Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Srila Bhakti Nirmal Acharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramansa Parabhajakacharya Ashtatara Sadashi Shiman Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramansa Parabhajakacharya Ashtatara Sadashi Shiman Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Prem Sigo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Bhagwat Ki Jai. Narottam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Vishwabharanya Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Kushamashra Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srila Bhakti Tilak Neri Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Sri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Shriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Sri Koladvip Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Sokel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Sevashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Shyam Kuna Radha Kunda Kalandi Yamuna Jo Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Bhakti Pavan Janardana Maharaj Ki Jai.